Hey guys, I want to ask you a question here. Are you someone who is struggling with gut issues? Maybe it's constipation, maybe it's bloating or gas, abdominal pain, acid reflux. Maybe you have other symptoms going on like brain fog, fatigue, memory issues. But one thing that you've noticed is with all of these gut symptoms has come really stubborn weight gain. Let me know in the comments if this is you and you're racking your brain trying to figure out how you can get this weight off. But it doesn't matter how clean you eat or what you're doing, it just seems to keep adding up. If you're someone who has had this experience, this live is going to be for you. So I wanted to talk to you today about weight gain and IBS and the connection between these two and why you might be experiencing weight gain, why you're struggling to get it off, but most importantly, why it is not as simple as calorie in, calorie out. We hear this a lot and it's fucking icky, right? And it's not as simple as that. It's so nuanced and complex. And so I'm going to teach you all of the things that you need to consider when you're struggling with weight gain and gut issues, okay? So I want to also just, take a moment to share what really prompted this conversation. Well, one, if you've been following for some time, you know that I have been through quite the healing journey myself, especially, over the last 3 years, having been living in mold, which ignited a Lyme infection, which left me with a huge flare-up of gut infections from parasites to E. coli, Epstein-Barr virus. I had candida overgrowth. There was a whole bunch of things going on for me just gut-wise, let alone the mycotoxin exposure and again Lyme disease, which left me unable to walk and in excruciating chronic feet pain. So I've really been through the ringer, and through that experience of living in mold and kind of going through all those experiences, but more importantly getting out of mold and starting the detox process. This is really important. We're going to talk about the detox process. Is that weight gain is incredibly common. But why does this happen, right? And so what ended up happening was throughout that time, I've obviously been still running my practice, showing up on video. I'm pretty well on the other side of it now. But through that time, I would say 2-3 years ago, I was really struggling to do videos. I just was so dead tired in the depths of my healing. But I still did some videos, and those landed on my YouTube channel, as all of our videos do. And I had someone comment on my video, one of my videos, and said that I had gained a lot of weight. And I first of all, a couple of things went through my head. One, I'm so grateful I've done so much work to really work to love and accept my body where I'm at. I grew up in an environment where there was a lot of commenting on my body my whole life. And so it's something that I've really had to work through. But I'm so glad that I've really gotten to the place of having a bigger, deeper understanding of what weight really means to the body, because if you don't have this information that I'm going to share with you today, then you may get caught in the depths of those heavy guilt and shame and what is wrong with me and I'm ugly and I'm unlovable, and that is not true. Right? Now, the other thing is that we all know when we gain weight, right? Obviously, I know I've gained weight from the detox process, from living in mold, from healing from Lyme disease and chronic gut infections. I'm the one that's looking at me in the mirror every single day, right? And you probably are experiencing this too, where you're looking in the mirror. You don't need anyone to tell you, right? You don't need your grandma to be like, you look a little chubby today. Thanks, grandma, right? We don't need the feedback. Right? We already know because we are our worst critic typically. And that's part of the work that we have to do to heal, is become the most safe environment, the environment that the one person who is not going to be casting judgment. And this takes a lot of practice. Okay. So I'm going to teach you today the things that you need to understand so that you can get out of any sort of icky feelings that you might be having around your weight and understand the things that you need to work on. When people come to you and they comment on your weight, here's one thing you need to understand is that they don't hate you and they're not judging you. They're judging themselves and they hate their own bodies. And that's something that really breaks my heart, right? And so we have to remember that if people are coming to you and making comments, really just know that this is more a reflection of where they're at. And the best thing that you can do, again, is come back to yourself. So let's talk about calorie in versus calorie out. This is like the basic, if we want to say like the science of weight loss, is calorie in, calorie out. Meaning, if you haven't heard that before, if we think about calorie out is like your energy expenditure, how many calories you are burning in a day by your mere existence, on anything from your mere existence of just like sitting there breathing. We do burn calories by existing, right? All the way to when we're doing exercise. We burn calories all throughout the day, right? I'm burning calories right now as I'm moving around and breathing and talking, right? So that's calorie out, what we're burning, the energy or calories we're burning. And then there's calories in, obviously what we're consuming. And diet culture and weight loss, coaches, we'll call them loosely, what they're really focusing on often, not all, but most, is that you need to be in what we call a caloric deficit, which, by the way, I call bullshit, and we'll talk about why that is, but let me just keep explaining why this theory is flawed. So the idea of caloric deficit is that, let's say you're burning, I'm going to just use simple math for a moment here. It's not this, but let's say you burn 100 calories in a day. Well, they want you to consume less calories then. Consume 80 instead of 100, because you burn 100, then consume 80. That's what they mean by caloric deficit. You're ingesting less calories than you're burning. And the theory is that you will then lose weight. And on paper, yes, this makes sense, but we're fucking human beings. We're not paperwork, right? And this is why so many people experience, one, if they do get into restrictive eating or really into a deep caloric deficit, you may be able to force the weight off by, again, sheer force. But what will happen is you will gain that weight back and some often. Who here has been there before? We've all been there before, but let me know in the comments some of the crazy things that you've tried over the past that may have worked in that you lost the weight, but eventually it did come back, right? These are examples of extreme caloric deficit or extreme shifts that are not really creating sustainable change because the big thing that is actually causing our weight gain is still there. So let's talk about what those factors are, because what we have to understand about weight is that weight is a protector. So when I was experiencing this weight gain, I was like, well, wow, this makes sense. My body feels like it needs a lot of protection. Why is that? Well, shortly before kind of everything came to a head, I had some childhood memories come up. I was processing some trauma, right? Needed protection, right? Then we were living in mold. I mean, I was gaining weight. I'm like, I'm eating rigidly healthy. Why am I gaining weight? Because I was living in mold. My body's like, you need protection, right? Which ignited these underlying dormant viruses and then attracted other gut infections. So I had all these things going on that were a threat to my body. And so weight was the protection. And this is why I've really worked to develop so much compassion for myself and my body, because I know my body is literally it's got my back. It's doing everything it knows it needs to help me keep moving forward. And that's really why you have to look at it this way, because otherwise you will literally take yourself out. If the rest of the world doesn't take you out, you will take yourself out. Okay, so the first thing again is weight is a protector. Now, when we look at what your body may feel it needs protection from, we're going to talk about each of these things. We have to understand what then, what's the cascade effect, right? When we have these trigger points that cause our body to feel it needs protection, it's usually because it's compromising our body in one of two ways. One, it's either forcing us into habits that are creating weight gain. right? Whether it's sedentary lifestyle or sugar cravings or carb cravings and making us eat things that we're like, oh my God, I just need more sugar. Like, oh my God, give me a loaf of bread. No, oh my God, give me the bag of chips, right? It's either triggering us into habits that are not supporting our health, or two, it's impacting the functionality of our body. Okay, these are two really important things to remember. And each of the, I'm going to say trigger points that cause your body or threaten your body and make your body feel like it needs protection are going to impact these two functions potentially. So let's start talking about what they are and the things you need to consider if you're struggling with weight gain and just can't seem to get it off. Okay, the first one is infections. When our body is out of balance, right? Whether we're getting symptoms, whether it's weight gain or can't poop, or, skin issues, no matter what's going on with your body, if there is a symptom presenting, there's a problem. And underneath that, there is infection always, okay? That's the one thing that I find a lot of people get wrong, is they think that what's causing their symptoms is that they're lacking some nutrient. They think they need more enzymes or more probiotics or more vitamins or minerals. And this is why a lot of people end up taking probiotics, prebiotics, digestive enzymes, again, multivitamins. None of this shit is gonna fix your gut or any of your symptoms, because it's less likely that you're lacking something and more likely that you need to focus on that which is in your body that does not belong there. Infections. Okay, and the reality is that we're coming in contact with infections, bacteria, fungus, bacteria, pathogens all of the time. It's not whether you've come in contact with them, it's whether your gut is strong enough to fight them off and process them out, meaning poop them out. Okay? What happens for many of us is just wear and tear in our bodies over the years. Our system becomes weaker and we become more susceptible to infections being able to set in, latch on, and really start taking over. Okay? So infection is one of the biggest things that you need to look at when we're addressing weight that can make your body feel like, holy shit, I need protection. There's something attacking me, I need protection. Now, depending on the infection, it could be anything from parasites to h.pylori to SIBO to candida. There's all different types of infections that can be present. Not all of them are going to be present for you, but usually there's more than one, right? So we got to figure out which ones are flagging for you. What these infections will do, depending on the one, is remember, they're either going to impact your habits or they're going to impact function. So let's start with habits when it comes to infections. Depending again on the infection, there are certain infections like candida, like parasites, that will have you craving sugar. Right? So sometimes I'll have clients, they're like, oh, I just love sugar. I had a client this morning, bless his heart. He was like, I love bananas. He's like, if I buy like a thing of bananas, I'll sit there and eat like 4 or 5 of them in a sitting. And I'm like, that's not you. That is your candida overgrowth that we're working on right now. Yeah, that is those little buggers that are saying more food, please, right? And so if you find like you are craving sugar, like after you eat a meal, you just need to like finish it off with a little something sweet, or like you're finding that you like carb heavy meals, like these are all examples of cravings that can come from actual gut infections. And it's not that you don't have control over your choices of food, and it's not that you're fat or anything like that, like this negative dialogue that goes on in our head. It's simply that you have infections that are impacting your habits. Okay, other things like SIBO, parasites, I mean, each of these in some way, h.pylori, all of these are going to impact your enzyme production, making it difficult for you to break down your foods. You're going to feel more lethargic. You're not going to feel motivated. And so you're going to find that you don't have the motivation or the energy to be getting out there and moving your body. Right? So there's some things on a habit level that are going to predispose you to being more likely to gain weight. That is still out of our control that we have to work to kind of overcome. On the other side is, again, function. So how do these infections impact function, which then create weight gain? Well, many gut infections will actually interrupt your hormonal system or your endocrine system. And hormones, I want to be clear, they're never a root cause. They're a symptom, so hormone imbalances. But hormones are a chemical communicator. They communicate all throughout your body. What may be interrupting your hormones? Gut infections, right? Infections. And when infections get involved with messing with our hormones, then our hormones get out of whack. For example, we can develop excess estrogen. Well, holy shit, then excess estrogen equals tissue growth, right? So ladies, PCOS, fibroids, endometriosis, adenomyosis, all of these are really, hi, my kitty, she's screaming. I don't know if you can hear. Yes, V. All of these are really coming back to our chemical communicators, aka our hormones, are being interrupted by gut infections, and the function of our hormones, again, functionality is being impacted, and now we have this tissue growth developing. Now we're experiencing weight gain. Okay, so this is why, this is such a prime example, guys, why you can't be like shaming yourself. Like, you can't be, oh, I have no control over, like self-control over food. I make such bad choices. I need to cut more food groups out. Carbs are the devil. I need to become keto. Fuck that noise, right? This is where the diet industry is dangerous. And anytime you have people telling you calorie in, calorie out, or cut out these food groups, or you just need to eat less, or don't eat after 7 p.m., right? Or intermittent fast. No, we need to like look at what part of your body is feeling like it needs protection right now. What infections are present? Okay, Jocelyn's saying, you're so informed. What kind of doctors will be willing to check for all these infections? This is a great question. Unfortunately, you know, most doctors, so medical doctors, their toolbox is designed for diagnosis of disease, management of symptoms with like pharmaceutical drugs, and emergency situations and surgery, right? So one of the challenges with this toolbox is it's not designed to look at what's impacting the functionality of your body. It's looking to just diagnose disease, right? Oh, you have IBS, meaning you've got an irritable gut. There's something going on in your gut, it's pissed off, but we don't know what's causing it. They don't look into what's causing things. So in terms of looking into these types of deeper root causes, you're gonna wanna work with a functional practitioner such as myself, who's going to do some deeper work, some more functional testing as opposed to medical screenings that you would get from a medical doctor. So hopefully that kind of helps. It also depends on, you know, what specifically you're looking to test, but send me a message if you need some support and we can help you kind of get that figured out. Okay, so let's now talk about one other thing that you need to consider. I've got a couple other things here. Let's talk about your good bacteria, right? Your good bacteria. Now, I run a lot of functional labs. We've worked with over 1,000 clients over the last decade inside our Love and Trust Your Guts program. I have seen a lot of poop samples and poop results, okay? And what we know about when we're looking at bacteria is it's not just the bad guys we want to look at, but also our good bacteria. And there's a couple of different strains of bacteria that I like to look at specifically that can tell me a few different things in regards to weight. So there's one strain called Akkermansia. This is a good bacteria. I always tell my clients she's like the queen bee. She's responsible for creating this mucus layer that protects our gut lining. It helps with coating that gut lining, making sure we're absorbing nutrients properly. And it's commonly depleted when we have gut infections, especially like h.pylori and parasites that wear out this mucus layer. That Akkermansia, your good bacteria, is working so hard to keep in place, okay? Now, what we know is when Akkermansia is out of balance, these individuals typically struggle with their weight. There's two other strains too, or I'm gonna say they're families. They're like a umbrella family of beneficial bacteria, okay? So there's single strains and then there's like families, umbrellas oh, this isn't making sense. Let me backtrack. So when we're looking at good bacteria, we've got all of these little personalities, okay? All of these little strains, pardon me. And then we have larger like umbrella groups or families of strains. And so the family strains we're looking at are firmicutes and bacteroidetes. Give me one sec here, guys. So firmicutes is one umbrella. And under the firmicute umbrella, we have all these single strains of bacteria that have all different personalities and benefits and characteristics, okay? And over here, we've got the umbrella of bacteroidetes. So these two umbrella groups of good bacteria represent 80% of your total beneficial bacteria. And so this is why these are two types of beneficial bacteria that we like to test when we're working with clients. And what we realize is when these two family of bacteria are out of whack, which is very common, this also is typically an indicator that these individuals are going to struggle with weight. And what makes these three different types of bacteria become either turn into high drive and become too high or overpopulated, or go too low and become depleted, are going to be things like gut infections, stress, and toxins. And so what you're going to start to notice as we go through this list is it's not just, one of these things that you're going to be looking at. You kind of want to look in to see there's going to be multiple things like maybe gut infections and your good bacteria, or it may be gut infections and some of the other factors that may be contributing here to your weight. It's never just one thing, okay? So your good bacteria being out of whack, that can definitely create weight gain. But this is why taking a probiotic is often not successful, because we have to look at the infection load as well. And we also have to look at what's causing those good bacteria to become out of whack. For example, most probiotics on a shelf don't have Akkermansia in them. Most probiotics on a shelf don't have firmicutes or bacteroidetes. So it's not just about going out and taking probiotics. It's about cleaning up the environment so that they can come back into balance on their own. Okay? So please don't go waste your money buying a probiotic hoping that it's going to make you lose weight. It will not. And if there are people that are saying it will, run the other direction. Okay? Let's keep going here. Another something that you need to consider when we're looking at weight, again, what may be causing your body to feel like it needs protection, aka excess weight, is toxins. Okay, now here's the really interesting thing about toxins, and I'm going to use this client that I met with this morning as an example because he has just recently had to move out of his home. He uncovered that his home did have mold in it. This isn't the case for everyone, but this is just one example. And so his home had mold growing in it. It was really impacting his health. Some of the things that he was experiencing were like real extreme fatigue, reactions to just about every food. He was getting histamine reactions. There was a lot of constipation going on, bloating. And so when we started looking at all of the contributing factors, there was a real heavy toxic load going on in his body, mostly from living in mold. And what he was sharing with me was, Alyssa, I've gained some weight. Is that normal? What might be going on? I'm eating the same foods. I'm still eating, again, rigidly clean. Why am I gaining weight? And so we had to look at, again, and I was explaining to him that what happens when we get exposed to toxins, and toxins can be something like mycotoxins from a mold exposure in our home or our workplace. It can be heavy metals and other chemicals that we're being exposed to in our cleaning products, in, air fresheners, which are really just air chemicalers. They're just pumping chemicals in the air, right? But our lotions and skincare, our shampoos, our cleaning products, we're being bombarded with toxins everywhere around us. And so toxins, are a really common thing. It's not about, just like infections, it's not about whether you're being exposed to them. It's how well your body is processing and eliminating out the exposure that it is coming in contact with. And so so back to this client. So what we had realized was that for him, there was a lot of mycotoxins from his current home. And what happens with toxins is they get stored in fat in the body. Let that sink in for a moment. Isn't our body so smart? Remember, weight, fat, is a protector. And your body will store those toxins in that fat to protect you. So if you have an influx of toxin exposure, you're more likely to gain weight because the body needs storage for these toxins to protect your body. Mind blown, right? Listen, if you're sitting there eating a bunch of Big Macs and junk food and processed food, it's no surprise that you may be struggling with your weight. And you know that those foods are probably not helping. But I say this all the time. Most of our clients that come to see us, they're not really eating those processed foods because their gut will not tolerate it. The symptoms that they get from eating those types of foods is just not worth it to them. And so most of our clients are actually eating pretty clean, not perfect, but pretty clean, and still struggling with weight. And so if that's you, if you're like, Alyssa, it ain't Big Macs, I'm telling you, I'm eating the vegetables, I'm eating plain bland chicken, right? I'm eating broccoli, and you're not really, indulging, within reason, but you're not really indulging in all these junk foods and you're still struggling with weight. It is not your fault. It is not your fault. It is something potentially so much deeper going on. And so we want to really assess your toxic load, okay? I will also, let's go back to, again, habit function. So in terms of toxins are really going to impact the functionality of your body, particularly your hormones. So back to your hormones, much like gut infections, are going to impact those chemical communicators. And remember, most commonly, toxins, heavy metals are going to create an estrogenic environment, meaning you're going to have excess estrogen. Excess estrogen equals tissue growth, equals weight gain. So again, back to our PCOS ladies, endometriosis, adenomyosis, fibroids, all this tissue growth. What are some of the common symptoms that we hear people, especially with PCOS, complaining about is weight gain, right? So back to that excess estrogen from toxins, infections, your weight it's so much deeper. Guys, please, for the love of God, stop hating on yourselves. You have to you take this deeper understanding and just pour so much grace over yourself and be like, wow, all this time, I didn't realize it wasn't my fault. Okay, but now here's the thing. Now that you're going to know better, you're going to do better, right? So now that you know better, now we got to get you figuring out what part of these infections, toxins, good bacteria, let's look at all of those things that may be contributing to your weight. Now, there's one other big thing that we need to talk about when it comes to weight, and that is the emotional connection behind weight gain. So as I mentioned at the beginning, loosely speaking, the emotional connection behind weight gain is needing protection. But there can be some real depth behind this, right? There can be some real depth behind this. I've even heard it said, depending on what types of emotional stressors are going on, can even sometimes determine where we're holding some of our weight. I've heard, don't hold me to it because I haven't gone and, done any fact checking on this, but in the, emotional connection behind your symptom world, they have said that oftentimes weight around the stomach can sometimes mean that we need protection from family, right? So if there are family dynamics that are tricky, sometimes weight can be, in the belly can be that sticky spot for us. But again, there can be some real depth, and I'm going to just give a bit of a content warning here because we're going to just briefly skim some of that depth. But I want to talk about, again, generally speaking, protection. And when it comes to the physical body, sometimes weight can be a literal physical barrier from the external world. And so what we commonly see is individuals who are, I'm going to start from the light stuff and go to the depth. So this is your, warning to exit if you want to. is that it can start with just basic, sense of worthiness and love. If you're not feeling like you are lovable, then you will make yourself what you feel is unlovable by eating unhealthy and really not taking care of yourself, and unconsciously or subconsciously, throwing away your health, right? Eating yourself into a hole. And this is a really important place that we work from, is this sense of, do I feel that I am deserving of love? Do I feel I am worthy and deserving of health? These are also things that we have to look at when it comes to weight, because when the answer is no to these questions, then you will not take care of yourself, and this will impact our habits. And so you will eat foods that do not support your health. And then this is going to then impact the function, right? It's going to keep you in a chronic state of stress, which impacts all of the function of your body. And so there's, again, feeling lovable, feeling worthy and deserving. Also being comfortable being seen. Being seen. And again, weight being a barrier or a protector, some people have a really hard time being seen. And weight is one of the ways that they like to, again, subconsciously, a lot of this is where this happens, hide. They're trying to hide from the world and bury themselves in the weight so that they don't have to be seen, right? So that people won't fully see them, fully take them seriously in many ways, so that you don't have to step fully into the best version of yourself. And so that's something that we sometimes need to unpack with a therapist or a coach, to really look at, how are you seeing yourself, like deep down on a core level. The last thing I want to touch on is that a lot of this goes back to safety, feeling safe in the world. And for some of us, when there has been any kind of sexual trauma or any kind of physical trauma that has occurred to us or our bodies potentially at any point in our life, then our bodies don't feel safe in the world. And so weight becomes a literal cushion or a literal barrier to try to protect us, right? And so this is why, when again, we're talking about weight, guys, there's so much depth behind it. There's so many different facets and things, nuances and things that we need to go and explore, that it is not fair to your mental health, your physical health, your emotional health, to reduce it down to calorie in, calorie out. It's not that simple. We're not a piece of paper. And this is why science is only going to take us so far, because science is not able to encompass the full human experience, the nuances of all that is the complexities of our emotional being. So when we are confronting weight, the best thing that we can do is know that we are not trying to hate ourselves into health. Okay, because that's not going to work. You can't hate yourself or shame yourself into or guilt yourself into losing weight. You're going to have to really go through this. There's no quick fix. There's no popping pills. There's no keto this, carnivore that, paleo that. It is really about getting into the depths of understanding how to support yourself from the inside out. And the tricky part about when it's dealing with weight is that you're probably going to have to confront the sense of feeling worthy of being healthy and deserving to feel healthy. And so this is why weight is such a profitable industry, because we are not building humans to be emotionally resilient and equipped to go into the depths, to feel our feelings and to heal from the inside out. We have created an instant society where we want to microwave our way to results, that instant gratification. And if you are seeking health, the thing that you need to kill is this sense of instant results. And you're going to have to learn to be patient and gracious and loving to yourself. And this is easier said than done. So know that I see you. Know that I understand what you're going through, because I have been there, and in some sense are still going through that and still right there with you. And this is why I felt really, really called to come in and talk to you about this today. And And so I hope this has been helpful. Let me know in the comments which part of this live was most helpful for you and if you have any questions. And we will see you guys real soon. All right, bye.